In a move that shocked both political analysts and legal experts, President Donald Trump, on Monday, issued a full and unconditional pardon to former Virginia Sheriff Scott Jenkins, who had been convicted on federal bribery charges late last year. The announcement came not from a podium, nor through an official press release, but in true Trump fashion, via a fiery post on his social media platform, Truth Social. Sheriff Scott Jenkins, his wife Patricia, and their family have been dragged through hell, Trump wrote. He will not be going to jail tomorrow, but instead will have a wonderful and productive life. With those words, Jenkins' 10-year prison sentence vanished with the stroke of a political pen. Scott Jenkins, once a law enforcement officer serving a quiet county roughly 2 hours from the nation's capital, became the center of a national scandal. In December 2024, a federal jury found him guilty of accepting over $75,000 in bribes. In return, he handed out official sheriff's badges and auxiliary deputy appointments to donors who had never worn a uniform, never undergone training, and never performed a minute of law enforcement work. According to the Department of Justice, these individuals gained the authority and appearance of law enforcement officers, not through merit or service, but by buying their way into positions of privilege and power. Court documents revealed that these bribes were masked as campaign contributions, but their purpose was clear: to gain credentials that should only be earned, not bought. In March, Jenkins was handed a decade-long sentence by a federal judge. Justice had seemingly run its course. But behind bars, Jenkins began a new campaign, one not for office, but for clemency. His appeals weren't limited to the courts. They reached far beyond, targeting one man who had the power to undo his conviction, Donald J. Trump. During an April webinar hosted by the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, Jenkins made his case not just to the public, but to the president himself. "I believe wholeheartedly in the president," Jenkins said. "I believe if he heard the information, I know he would help if he knew my story." And now, that belief has borne fruit. President Trump has once again flexed the presidential pardon as a political instrument. He has cast Jenkins not as a criminal, but as a victim, a man wronged by what he calls the overzealous Biden Department of Justice. No mention was made of the jury's verdict. No word on the evidence that had mounted against Jenkins during the trial. Only a blunt declaration that justice, as applied by the current administration, was flawed, even corrupt. This pardon is not an isolated act. It follows a growing list of controversial clemencies granted by Trump since returning to office. In January, he pardoned nearly all individuals prosecuted for their roles in the January 6 Capitol riot, people charged with trespassing, assault, conspiracy, and more. In February, he shocked political circles again by pardoning the former Illinois governor, Rod Blagojevich, who had tried to sell Barack Obama's vacant Senate seat. The pattern is undeniable. Trump is not just pardoning individuals. He's making a statement that he alone defines justice, that loyalty matters more than legality, that convictions can be reversed, not with new evidence, but with political will. Legal experts and civil rights advocates have expressed concern. They warn that such pardons erode public faith in the justice system. They argue that pardons should be based on fairness and rehabilitation, not favoritism and political narrative. But Trump supporters see it differently. To them, the former sheriff is another casualty of a so-called deep state. A symbol of how political power can be used to silence dissent, target allies, and reshape the narrative around crime and punishment. The Justice Department has remained mostly silent. The officials who prosecuted Jenkins have not publicly responded. But within legal circles, the concern is palpable. What precedent does this set? If bribery convictions can be swept aside with a tweet, what message does that send to law enforcement agencies, to prosecutors, to judges? And what about the people who paid Jenkins for those badges? Are they also above the law now? For Jenkins, the ordeal may be over, but the storm is far from passing. His name is now etched in a national conversation about corruption, loyalty, and presidential power. He won't go to prison, but his legacy is now forever tied to controversy and debate. The pardon has also stirred unease within the law enforcement community itself. Many officers believe Jenkins betrayed the badge, that selling credentials undermines the integrity of the profession. To see him pardoned may feel like a betrayal of justice. Meanwhile, political observers say Trump is doubling down on his image as a disruptor, a man who isn't bound by norms or tradition, a leader who will protect his allies no matter the cost. This story isn't just about one sheriff. It's about power, about who gets to wield it. about what it means when the lines between justice and politics begin to blur. For now, Scott Jenkins walks free. He won't serve a day of his 10-year sentence. He returns to his community with a clean record, but under a cloud that will likely follow him for the rest of his days. And America, once again, finds itself asking, where is the line between justice and loyalty? And who gets to draw it?